Hallo und herzlich willkommen zurück zu einer weiteren Folge Witch on the Holy Night. Ich glaube, es nähert sich langsam dem Ende. Ich hoffe, dass das noch mehr als eine Folge ist, um ehrlich zu sein. Auf jeden Fall hat Aokos ja beim letzten Mal das Tor durchschritten zur wahren Magie, nenne ich es jetzt einfach mal. Womit sie jetzt anscheinend Soji auch wieder zurück ins Leben geholt hat. Und jetzt wird sie wahrscheinlich Toko ziemlich fertig machen. Toko scheint jetzt gerade angreifen zu wollen. Jumping backward, Toko drew more runic symbols in the air. In response, her crest burned brightly. But... Boah, das sieht schon richtig sick aus. With a single word, Aokos nullified the runes, dissolving them before they could be given meaning. The power of Aokos' words had surpassed the magical energy of Toko's rune magecraft. With the runes nullified, Aokos continued advancing through the white flowers. From her calmness to the robust spinning of her magic circuits and her breathing, she was different. A woman with sublime self-control, a trait only found in mages with a lifetime of combat experience. Given the evidence, that was the only explanation for the Aozaki magic. Aokos' magic circuits had not been amplified. That would have been impossible anyway. Like Toko, she would have to externalize them, which would just increase the scope of her magical energy and technique. By nature, the quality of a mage's magic circuits did not change. But Aokos was now clearly a superior mage to Tokyo. So there was only one logical conclusion. In an instant, she had grown from an amateur to a veteran. She fast-forwarded her own time. The scarred red mage turned her back on her sister and ran. She knew she could not win. So she fled towards the old school building. Aokos did not fire. Not out of pity, but because she deduced that an attack at this range was risky. She went to chase after sister but stopped suddenly. A few words caught in her throat. She took a small breath. Boah, das sieht so geil aus.
Alice, そいつ、お願い.
Boah. She said, slightly embarrassed by the majority of her voice. White petals flitted through the air. Without looking back, she made after Toko, her long hair flowing behind her. Boah. Das ist schon ziemlich geil. His eyelids snapped open. At last Soji awoke from his long slumber. Lying on his back, he gazed up at the stars. The trees around him created a porthole into space. Despite seeing all this for the first time, he felt an uncomfortable sense of déjà vu. So many questions. What happened before he fell asleep? Why had he been sleeping? Everything was just so hazy. It was like he had walked out the door one minute and woken up in bed next. With so many thoughts clouding his mind, he could barely recall his own name. All he could remember was a girl he had never seen before, and something thin around his neck. The voice, quiet but clear, belonged to the girl named Alice Koranger, who was at his side. He sat up, mumbling incoherently. The black-clad girl kneeled next to him. Oh, he said, paying no mind to Alice. Under the blue moonlight, spring flowers swayed, surrounded by dead trees and snow. Against the curtain of night, white petals danced in the breeze like butterflies. Staring long and hard at the spectacle, Soji suddenly raised his fingers to his neck. He moved carefully, like he was touching a wound. Then gradually he began squeezing harder, harder. The voice of the girl beside him brought him back to reality. She sounded both sad and reproachful, but Soji did not understand why. Seeing the uncharacteristic concern in her eyes snapped him into sense.
行くってどこに?
His fingers fell away from his neck. Without answering, she blankly looked to the sky. Though there was only the infinite darkness of
ま
space.
あいいや。それより俺は何をしてたんだろう。なんか変だ。ごちゃごちゃしてる。
Sergio tilted his head in confusion. Alice observed him motionlessly. This bewildered boy was a far cry from the one that made short work of a werewolf. Then again, this was Sergio. As she stared at him, she realized she did not have an answer he could understand. So she tried asking a question. The same question she had asked him repeatedly as he slept, but eventually gave up expecting a response to.
今までしずきくんは何をしていたの？
Her quiet question was spoken like an enthralling spell of magecraft. Sad spell seemed to work and Sergio sank into a sea of memories. Atop the bright white hill, they quietly sat for a while, like siblings.
誰かの声が聞こえた気がする。何かを聞いているようだった。けど、自分は最後まで一言も返せなかった。
Though consumed by the darkness of death, he could still vaguely recall the girl's question. He was not aware that he had died, but it seemed a fragment of time remained from when he had been with her. Sergio's expression darkened, filled with regret. Looking at his profile, Alice pressed him
そ
further.
れで欲しいものは見つかった？
Remembering that someone had asked him questions, he gave a slight nod.
ああ、そうだった。けれどね、アリス。そんなものは見つからないって思っていたんだ。うん。ずっとそう思っていた。
The regret in his voice was accompanied by a hint of strength. Lowering his gaze, Sergio saw a white flower garden that looked like something from the afterlife. It shone brightly, captivating him.
思い出した。青子の前でざっくり言ったんだっけ。なのに生きているのはどういうことなんだろう。
Sergio said, prodding his body curiously. His arms were the old sleeves again. But what of Aoko? He turning toward Alice for an answer, who was sat among the flowers looking sullen.
巻き戻されたのよ、しずきくんは。この風景も本来はあなたの記憶だけど、わからない。
Alice seemed to be speaking in riddles.
俺の記憶って、その割には知らないところなんだけど。
今しずきくんの時間は青子に使われているから、それが戻されるまで思い出すことはないわ。
She answered ominously, as she cast her gaze over the flower garden.
でもこれが消えてしまうのは残念ね。元に戻れば思い返せるのは私だけなのに。
Looking at the white blossoms, she smiled momentarily.
おお。
Her words only confused him further.
アリス、君答える気がないんだろう。
He said dejectedly, prompting Alice to face him. What emotions lay inside those deep eyes?
意味のない話だけど聞きたい？
聞きたい。アリスが教えてくれるならなおさらだ。
Sergio nodded enthusiastically, while Alice took a deep breath and closed her eyes. When she spoke in as caring a tone as she was capable of.
結論だけ言うと、あなたは一度死んで生き返ったの。しずきくんが瞳子さんに殺されてから、青子が目を覚ますまでの5分間分の時間を巻き戻して、その時あなたは10年近い年月を青子に使われた。2人とも肉体年齢は変わってないから、中の時間だけ持っていったんでしょうね。だから今この景色を懐かしく思えるのは青子だけ。そして
And once the time exchange was over, neither Aoko nor Sergio would remember what had happened during these moments. When Aoko used someone else to channel her true magic, it did not affect her alone. If she had rewound time for only herself, the temporal inconsistencies would form part of her own experience. However, this was proper time travel. The inconsistencies would be corrected. When the magic ended, both Ako's memories of this place and Sergio's unfamiliarity with it would be corrected. This miracle would become unrealized. Only the observers would remember this brilliant white sea of flowers, Alice and Toko.
時間を持っていく
Cedric asked, his head tilted, even farther at Alice's general explanation. She recalled how Aokos said that if you gave Cedric a roundabout answer he would stop asking questions, even if he did not comprehend it.
しずきくんを生き返らせる方法はなかったから、命の復元より死そのものの回避を青子は試みたのよ。まだ青子には無理なのか、それとも今回もひよったのか。大きな操作は避けて小さな操作、自分とあなただけの交換にとどめたよね。あなたは今5分間だけ時間を飛んだことになるわ。仮に遠い未来、この時間を検索できる人がいたとしても、あなただけは誰にも見つけられない。そして同時に青子は自分の時間を上乗せするために、多分幼年期の時間でしょうね。個人の時間操作は忘却している部分の方が楽だと聞くし。しずきくん。
Should I slow down? Alice asked with her eyes. All Cedric could do was not.
つまり2つの奇跡を青子は行使したの。
Ey, das macht echt Gänsehaut
あ
gerade.
なたの体の巻き戻しと自分の体の早送りね。しずきくんの時間に介入する際、ついでに10年分の時間を借り受けて未来の自分を持ってきた。だから今瞳子さんを殺そうとしているのは27歳分の時間を持った青崎青子ということになるわ。
Boah, what on earth was Alice talking about? Cedric's expression gave away his thoughts, though the part about Toko made him throw his
瞳子
bros.
さんを殺すって青子が
もう終わってるでしょうけど。
As soon as Alice answered, Cedric sped off, kicking up white petals behind him as he ran. The brave boy who defeated a werewolf was back. Alice watched him go. On a snowy night, the same boy ran down Shiroinosuke Hill for her too. Cedric entered the old school building. Lights flashed and the sounds of destruction exploded around him, threatening to turn the area into a burial ground. Still he remained
ほ
focused.
ら、悪いけれどやっぱり無駄だったわ。
Her words only reached the white flowers around her. Aoko knew Soichiro too well, so she wanted Alice to stop him. If he tried to interfere in the battle against Toko, she could not protect him this time. But it was too late to celebrate Aoko's judgment now. The girl in black had no intention of going after him. She simply sat for a while, gazing forlornly at the transient flower garden. Es ist schon... Schönste Linie ist das Schulgebäude. Oh, das sieht richtig sick aus. A storm of magic bullets struck down a hail of lightning blades. A mage's workshop was their home base and last line of defense. It featured an abundance of defensive spells designed to cut down brazen challengers and thieves. The old school building was no exception, painstakingly rigged by the puppet master and rune mage, Toko Aozaki. A reflection of her bizarre obsession, the workshop was set to indiscriminately destroy any intruders. Toko complained as she ran down the hallway, activating her traps along the way, but nothing seemed to work. None of the runes, regardless of their quality or quantity, could slow her sister down. Her reaction speed and ability to predict attacks could only be described as transcendent. Even magic bullets she fired from both her arms were too much, destroying the runes in the very walls that housed them. Oh, das sieht so geil aus.
それで一人前のつもりか単細胞め。熟成したところで壊すことしかできないとは呆れたな。
As she spread out her words, the ceiling opened, increasing the pressure from the runes. Invisible walls popped up in the hallway. Aokos stopped and swung her right leg upward. Straight towards the ceiling. Her foot cut through the thick air like a knife through butter, shattering the ceiling and the runes along with it.
あんたの方こそいつまで経ってもこの凝り性。どこもかしこもルーンだらけ。少しは遠慮ってもんがないの？みんなの思い出の校舎なんだからもっと大切に扱いなさいよね。
Die zerlegen echt das gesamte Schulgebäude. The wooden boards along the hallway that had withstood decades of wind and snow were now destroyed. Aokos charged forward. The chaos was inevitable. While Toko's runes cursed living creatures, Aokos' magic bullets destroyed all without prejudice.
優雅さのかけらもない。あんなのが自分の妹だと思うと。
Toko would do anything to change their blood, but there were more pressing matters at hand. The girl rushing her now was not the sister she remembered, but rather a more complete version of her. Toko couldn't afford to let her guard down for a second. But
そんなものが魔法であるものか。
localized time travel. Toko didn't believe that was the true nature of the Aosaki's magic. Aokos' transformation had to be a mere byproduct of true magic. She couldn't make heads or tails out of its destiny, even with Aoko having achieved it. At the very least, it was not so simple a miracle. After all, the concept of time travel was already made possible through the second magic. Record manipulation, revision of possibilities, and so forth involved the operation of parallel worlds. So there was no way that could be the fifth magic.
となると、次に出てくる疑問はこれか。青子、貴様、その10年分の時間をどこから持ってきた？
Sie hat das mit den 10 Jahren festgestellt.
あのボンクラからよ、悪い。後で返すんだから、あんたに非難される覚えはありませんけど。
That made sense. There was a bias. But the amount of time on this axis had not been changed. But
では、あの5分間はどうする？まさか私を始末した後、彼を元の状態に戻すのか？
Aokos stopped in her tracks. Toko took aim at Aokos' glaring oversight. Aosaki magic and Aokos' humanity were inconsistent.
そうだ。時間操作では死者の蘇生は許されない。お前がしたことは一時だけの気休めか。
The magic crest on Toko's back began to demonstrate their true worth. Drawing upon the magical energy stored in the crest, she materialized her largest trap yet in the hallway.
あるいはより罪深い暴虐ということだ。
Three rune stones appeared. The scale and level of magic energy were widely different from the other runes, created by DarthSevSev at the Mages Association. They were replicas of one of the lost primordial runes created by a Nordic giant. The three thin crystalline lenses amplified her carved runes tens of millions of times. They rendered projectiles like magic bullets ineffective. Even if Aokos' magic oil output far exceeded Toko's, those giant slaves were several times more powerful still. Aokos' signature magic could only release magical energy, so she had no way to defend or evade the attack. Pushing herself on, Aokos took a deep breath of resolve. Instead of defending or dodging, she went low and charged into the rune storm. Boah. Infuriated by the realization, Toko set in her magic quest to full power. Through repeated second-long bursts of time travel, Aokos was able to avoid the runes completely. She was either sending the attack's impact to a different time, or layering several thousands of herself atop one another. Whatever, no way she could keep up that kind of magical energy output. Alter.
1枚目
Aoko kicks the crystal slab to pieces. 2 remain. Distance 30 feet. Toko had 10 seconds of magical energy left, but that was all she needed. Aoko, on the other hand, would stop now if she had any common sense as a mage. She couldn't continue breaking the rules for much longer. Then again, time travel itself was breaking the rules.
Aoko!
Once again, Aoko used the same technique. Toko's suspicion turned into white hot hatred. She couldn't care less about her time travel formula. It was the amount of magical energy she had. Where was she pulling the energy necessary to jump through time for so long?
やはりそうか。お前は。
It was the death of Sojiro Shizuki. If she had brought him back 5 minutes to when he was still alive, where would those 5 minutes go? Aoko's magic wasn't using parallel words to change this one. She had only rewound Sojiro's 5 minutes. Then logically, he would return to being a corpse as soon as the magic ended. Time travel that didn't change the world couldn't change the past. Therefore, if she wanted to save him, she had to either truly resurrect him or send those 5 minutes of reality somewhere far away without returning them.
2枚目
Aoko showed no sign of slowing. From behind the crystal barrier, Toko glared at Aoko with disdain.
答えろアオコ。貴様、彼の時間をどこにやった。そこにあった熱量の帳尻をどうやって合わせている。そんなの知るか。あいつの時間なら遥かな未来に置いてきたわよ。
15 feet to go. Faced with such a madness, Toko wanted to cover her eyes. She put the depth of the present in the distant future. A time paradox would have been more human. Such an enormous haphazard consumption of heat could not be allowed. After all, time travel alone required a massive amount of energy. Magical energy was required to bring things from somewhere else. At the same time, losing something that exists here consumed an incredible amount of energy. And what about the magical energy used for cooling? If either fell out of the equilibrium, it would mean total chaos. The distortion caused by a magic would come to affect this entire sector of space.
バカ、ここに極まったな。何千億年後に来る宇宙の死滅、人類の行く末に待つデッドエンドにさらなる負債を押し付ける気か。この星の頭上に隕石を作っているようなものだぞ。というか、お前の重みでこの星を押しつぶす気か。
Last comment, Aokos eyes widened. Her every step exerted such force it broke the floor was beneath her feet.
その時はその時で、今度は負債を過去に送ってやるわよ。歪みに潰されるのは過去だけなんだから。それで解決したつもりか。現在が確定している以上、過去を消滅させてもいいと。それでいいのは私たちだけだ。問題の総量、宇宙の負債はどうする？
Exactly. Even if the universe were closed, the present were closed. All the present were still expanding. The absurd increase in heat consumption would become uncontrollable. That which waits for the end of infinite expansion, infinite consumption, and infinite growth is a future without hope. The nothingness before creation. Eventually the universe would burn up.
青子の青崎の魔法はその結末をより確かなものにするだけだ。その責任をお前は。
Ey, faszinierend, wie tief das Ganze geht. Ey, ich bin echt... Boah.
言われなくても分かってる。責任なんて私が生きてる間に何とかするわよ。
5 feet to go. The room blast now carrying all of Toko's hatred focused into a scorching hot laser beam. Her body being torn into by the intense heat and the emotions dragging, Aoko drove her foot into the ground.
責任を取ると言ったな。ではその具体案は。そ そんなのこれから考えるに決まってるでしょ。お前は最悪だ。
Oh, das ist schon ziemlich sick. Tokos last defense was shattered. Close enough to connect, the two mages unleashed their magecraft. Red runes, blue ether. In a cascade of magic bullets, Toko Arasaki's crests were torn to pieces, and so was Toko herself. It was just as Alice said. By the time Sochi arrived, it was already over. The old school building's wooden boards had survived the elements for decades, but they were not ready for a mage duel. The entrance door hung off its hinges. The floorboards groaned. The stairs were ready to collapse underfoot. Toko's escape and Aokos' pursuit had left a trail of destruction leading all the way to the second floor. The chaos continued to the end of the hallway, by the stairs of the third floor. Toko sat in a heap with her back against the wall. Despite her injuries, she kept her eyes firmly on Aoko. She was bleeding internally and had multiple broken bones. She would not be moving anytime soon. Possibly damaged by Aoko's flying kick, her Mystique's eye had ruptured from within, closing them indefinitely. Despite her battered and broken body, she was still breathing steadily, a testament to her stubbornness. Before her stood Aokos, staring down at her uninjured.
屋上までは持つと思っていたんだが。
Toko was not trying to be faceless. She sounded genuinely disappointed. Aoko responded with a cold glare. Her azure eyes had not changed one bit. They were callous as ever, yet undeniably beautiful. From where she stood, Aoko held her hand out toward Toko. Like a hunter about to put a wounded prey out of its misery. The victor was decided. The mage came to steal land and gotten a death sentence for her trouble. Ich würde sagen, an dem Punkt beende ich jetzt tatsächlich diese Folge. Dann haben wir noch 1 oder 2 Folgen. Und zeitlich finde ich, ist es für mich so auch gerade besser. Aber alter Schwede, ey, das ist hier so geil, wie tief das Ganze geht. Die Erklärung für das Ganze, sogar mit dem Hitzetod des Universums und so. Das finde ich sehr, sehr geil. Ich möchte unbedingt einen vernünftigen Anime von dem Ding haben. Das wäre echt ziemlich cool. Am besten von UFO-Table animiert. Die würden da stilistisch so einiges raushauen, glaube ich. Vielen Dank fürs Zuschauen und bis zum nächsten Mal. Ciao.